In 2011, radioactive materials were leaked from Fukushima nuclear plant. After a decade, the Japanese government announced its plan to release the contaminated water. Japan argues that the diluted contaminated water is safe. Is it true though? And won't the release of the contaminated water violate any international law? The reason why Japan has decided to release the contaminated water. A nuclear power plant produces electricity by running a turbine using heat energy released during nuclear fission of nuclear fuel. Then, to manage the heat, it has to be cooled down using a coolant. Despite the meltdown of reactors due to earthquakes and tsunami, the released radioactive materials continue to undergo nuclear fission. Thus, it constantly needs coolant to cool down. However, the tank containing the contaminated coolant will be filled up by 2022. Amongst various methods, the Japanese government has decided to release the contaminated water as it has the lowest cost. Nonetheless, will Japan's release of contaminated water be safe? Contaminated water contains various contaminated materials, such as tritium. The Japanese government announced that a strict filtration process above the internal standards of Japan or the World Health Organization would be used for the release. Japan also argues that even if humans intake tritium, it won't significantly affect the human body as it is quickly released out of the body. International laws banning the release of contaminants into the ocean. As an international law, the London Convention on the Prevention of Marine Pollution by Dumping Waste and Other Matter restricts the dumping of waste into the ocean. The convention bans the dumping of wastes that may harm human health and the marine environment. When it was initially adopted in 1972, it was limited to only a few nuclear wastes deemed highly dangerous. However, a revised protocol was adopted in 1966, which banned the overall banning of waste dumping on the ocean. Interestingly, this revised protocol was led by Japan. It was an action taken against dumping nuclear waste to waters near the East Sea by Russia in 1993. At that time, Russia also dumped such waste due to the lack of nuclear processing facilities and the storage space for the processed materials. However, even after the adoption of the London Convention, world powers were reluctant to ban the dumping of nuclear waste due to realistic reasons. Regarding Japan's decision to release the water, the United States of America and the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, announced that they support Japan's decision. What is the position of South Korea? Korea will directly be affected by marine pollution. Thus, we need to have a closer look to see whether the filtration process of the contaminated water is safe or not. Besides the London Convention, we can also approach from the UNCLOS United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea perspective. UNCLOS includes general responsibility to protect and preserve marine resources. Until our government confirms the safety, we can request temporary measurements to stop Japan's release of the contaminated water.